Yeah, one story I want to share is actually happened to me a few years ago, and at first I actually considered it a loss, but afterwards, after some reflection, I realized it was actually a big win because it taught me how not to treat myself and how to live my life slightly differently. So I founded a company about 10 years ago, which became a fairly large platform for designer furniture, home accessories, which enabled people to buy beautiful things for the home without leaving the home. So it was kind of a notch above IKEA, where everything was curated by professionals and it was very stylish, and people could do all the shopping online and then just have it delivered. Anyways, and the first 5 years were just an absolute whirlwind, where I had to assemble the team and then build the brand from scratch and build up the assortment and fundraise the money for the business and many other things. I was wearing multiple hats, as it usually happens to founders, and I was working 24/7, and I rarely bought myself more than a pair of jeans, and I paid myself pretty minimal salary, and I almost never took vacations, and I barely had time to spend with my family or my son, and I thought I was doing everything right because I was driving this machine forward. I kept putting up more gas into the engine, thinking I'm going to go faster, and even when the business started earning significantly and the revenues were growing, I still reinvested everything into the business, and I still saved money on myself. So my whole mentality was that, okay, it's not about me, it's about this animal which I need to grow first, and I realized after a while that I was actually not valuing myself enough, and I realized this a few years later. And that it's incredibly important if you want the valuation of your business to be maximum, if you want to grow your business to be $1 billion, for example, then you need to value yourself as $1 billion entrepreneur. And if you value yourself as $1 billion entrepreneur, you need to make sure you're rested. You need to make sure you recharge your energy every few months. You need to make sure that you look your best, your health is at its best, and so on. So I actually realized that investing wisely into yourself and valuing your time, both in terms of money and letting yourself recharge, is incredibly critical for building a successful business down the line. Otherwise, after a while, there's a law of diminishing returns that kicks in, where the entrepreneur just keeps charging. And I've seen so many entrepreneurs burn out, by the way. And it's pretty common that when the founders, there's even a saying, I think, in the venture world, that business is only alive when their founders are keeping it alive, like when they have the energy to keep going. And so, like, the number one rule is actually for the founders to be recharged, to have this energy. Otherwise, the law of diminishing returns kicks in, where people put in more, but there's like less and less to gain back.
You play in the riskiest part of investing, where you can make 10, 20, 100 times your money, but in most cases, you are in fact going to lose it all. Can you tell us about that? And then I would love to know of your theory on whether or not women are naturally more risk averse, or if it's just socialization.
Okay, so we invest actually early stage in exceptional immigrant founders. That's the thesis. And on the one hand, it's super risky because we're one of the first investors to believe in the founding team. And we invest usually at pre-seed or seed, so sometimes we're even the first check that the founders get. And so it's super risky, but also we bet on the immigration path. So we look at people that have been through a very tough time, like, for example, Daniela had a very inspiring story where, it was like an all-time low for her, and then it became an all-time high. And so a lot of times when people have immigrated to a new country, for example, and it was a really tough experience, or when they were for some reason left broke or without money or without support, that's when they become strongest. And so one of the factors that we look at very attentively before we make an investment is that story there? And if that story is there, it doesn't actually matter if it's a woman or a man from that perspective. The gender lens is a slightly different one. But that's one of the filters that I think can protect our investment. I actually don't believe that women are risk averse. I think they can think more out of the box sometimes because they are really multitaskers, because we have to take care a lot of times of the kids, and we have to think about educating them, and we have to also think about the business. So working women, I found, are incredibly resourceful, even more so than men. And so sometimes they are able to make investments that are risky, but with like out of the box approach, which can make it be more successful. And one rule that I personally developed for myself is reinvest 10% of what I earn into something that matters. So 10% every month, no matter how much I earn, no matter how much you earn, if it's 10,000 or 1,000, doesn't matter. Just to make a rule for yourself to reinvest 10% into something that's outside of your daily things, like outside of your rent. It has to be really a reinvestment. And after a while, that builds up into an investment portfolio.